Christ is risen. He's risen. I was wondering if people knew that one up here. It is happy Easter time for us, and we get to celebrate together. I know that there's lots of traditions that go with Easter. Sometimes it's this is your day to go to church. And if that's your day here, we're glad you're here. A lot of people it's like new faces here. I haven't seen you, and if I haven't talked with you, I'm sorry I didn't get to you. But I want to make sure that we say thanks this morning for the things that are necessary. Such as there was many people here for the Easter breakfast this morning. And we need to say thank you for coming, because otherwise there was going to be a whole bunch of food up here. We needed people to eat it, and I was part of it. I'm glad I'll be part of that. But we want to thank those that have made the food for us. And if you would help me thank them. I am always thankful for cooks. I am not missing any meals, and I am grateful for that. Thank you for those that set up the chairs. Well, we had all the tables up here, and people just pitched in, or setting up the chairs, put the tables to the side. Wonderful. I am thankful for Keith and the worship team to lead us into worship. Hopefully, even that last song, Rattle, is like, so for me, it's a wonderful G chord, but it's... Thanks to you guys didn't even notice these people today, but the AV people, they make sure that you can hear the music and they can hear my voice, and they'll have all the things on the screen, and we're thankful for them. We're thankful for Morgan and the people in the nursery. We need those people too. I'm thankful for the security team. Now there's lots of people that we are thankful for this morning. So that's a great way to start, and I'm sure I'm missing a couple already. But we need to talk about Easter, because that's why we're here, aren't we? We need to talk about Easter. And today we get to talk about the window of hope. But it didn't start that way. It was 7 miles from Jerusalem to Emmaus. And there were 2 of Jesus' disciples that started on that road, and it wasn't with hope. They started on that road. They were in hopelessness, maybe despair, because Jesus was dead. Jesus is dead. It's not a happy Easter morning here. Hope is gone. You know, hope is a very dangerous thing. You know, we have all this hope because even 1 week ago, Jesus came into Jerusalem. The place was filled with hope. This is the Messiah. This is the person who's coming that's going to make everything right. It's a great day. We have great hope. He's our coming king who comes into Jerusalem. And a lot can happen in a week. A lot can happen in a week. Jesus was betrayed, and he was beaten, he was tortured, and he was crucified on Friday. He was placed in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea. And they put guards on the tomb. They rolled this stone so that supposedly some people wouldn't steal his body. But Jesus is dead. Hope is gone. That's why hope is a dangerous thing. We're all up here. Jesus comes in. Oh, he's dead. And now you're left with despair. But we open the window of hope. Oh, we open it today. Let me tell you about hope. Let me read this to you. It comes out of Luke 24. That same day, 2 of Jesus' followers were walking to the village of Emmaus, 7 miles from Jerusalem. As they walked along, they were talking about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things, Jesus himself suddenly came and began walking with them. But God kept them from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing so intently as you walk along?" And they stopped short, sadness written across their faces. Then one of them, Cleopas, replied, "You must be the only person in Jerusalem who hasn't heard about all the things that have happened here the last few days." "What things?" Jesus asked. "The things that happened to Jesus, the man from Nazareth," they said. "He was a prophet who did powerful miracles. He was a mighty teacher in the eyes of God and all the people. But our leading priests and other religious leaders handed him over to be condemned to death, and they crucified him. We had hoped he was the Messiah who had come to rescue Israel. This all happened 3 days ago." I love how the Bible talks about stories that you just couldn't make up. Even in your wildest dreams, you would never make up a story like this. Two followers of Jesus, they're walking along the road, leaving Jerusalem on their 7-mile trip to Emmaus. And all of a sudden, Jesus starts walking with them. And then he asks them a question that he is personally aware of. He knows the answer to this question. He goes, "What are you guys all excited about?" And you know when it really affects somebody, when it affects their feet. Because they're walking along and they stop. And they're going, "What? You don't know this stuff?" And this is where I think Jesus has got a mischievous kind of humor, and I love that. The twinkle in the eye type of thing. And all he says was, "What? What things?" Even though he knows exactly that they happened to him. And he asks them, "What things?" And then from deep in their hearts, they go, "We had hoped." You notice that it's past tense? Those that flunked English, it's okay. Past tense. This is in the past. We had hoped this is going to be this way. We had hoped that he was the Messiah. We don't hope any longer. That's gone. Our hope is gone. And we who have the benefit of history, we understand all of this. And if we were living in that time, we would have hoped too. We would have hoped for a Messiah. Someone to make things as they were supposed to be. That God is in control, and all of his people are under his charge. And that's what we would have hoped. Not for these Romans to be in charge of our country. We would have hoped for God to be in control. And the Messiah was supposed to save his people and make it so that it was the way it was supposed to be. He was supposed to rescue God's people and set up God's kingdom on earth as it already is in heaven. We had hoped. But hope is gone now. Hope has died. And for some of us, we're on the road to Emmaus today. That we had hoped for some things that were different, but they didn't work out that way. I remember when I was younger, my cousin was 40 years old and he caught colon cancer, and we're all praying for a different outcome, and God didn't say yes. He left a wife and several kids. We've been praying for John, who had got kidneys or liver, and God didn't say yes. There's many situations that we had hoped for a different outcome. And we're stuck without hope now. And some of this is even deeper. Like, I had hoped that I would really know Jesus in my heart, and I just didn't. I had hoped. It's too late for me now. And sometimes we're still on that road without hope. And often in despair, and then depression or trauma sets in, and it's all because of the grief and the disappointment, and sometimes defeat. And sorrow leads us to hopelessness. But the Emmaus Road, if it tells us anything, it's that what we see with our eyes is not everything. Just because we don't see doesn't mean God isn't working. Let me read how God was working, and he refuses to abandon any of his people. Let me read more. Then Jesus said to them, "Oh, you foolish people, you find it so hard to believe all that the prophets wrote in the Scriptures. Wasn't it clearly predicted that the Messiah would have to suffer all these things before entering his glory?" Then Jesus took them through the writings of Moses and all the prophets, explaining all the Scriptures, the things concerning himself. And by this time they were nearing Emmaus and the end of their journey. Jesus acted if he were going on. But they begged him, "Stay the night with us, since it is getting late." So he went home with them. And as they sat down to eat, he took bread and he blessed it, and then he broke it and gave it to them. And suddenly their eyes were opened and they recognized him. And at that moment he disappeared. They said to each other, "Didn't our hearts burn within us as he talked with us on the road and explained the Scriptures to us?" And within the hour they were on their way back to Jerusalem. There they found the 11 disciples and the others who had gathered with them, who said, "The Lord has really risen." He appeared to Peter. Wouldn't it have been just so much easier for Jesus just to say, "Hey, it's me, Jesus. I'm back from the dead"? Wouldn't it have been just so simple? Like, why not? Instead, Jesus talks with two of his disciples, his friends, as they make like a funeral march back home. And he gives them some time to unpack it and talk through the shattered dreams, the expectations that are just dashed. He says, "Hey, what's going on? Let's just talk about it. Talk me through this." And then as they keep talking, Jesus says, "Oh, let me talk with you as well. Let me talk to you about the Messiah." And I can imagine him starting even in Genesis, first books of the Bible, and saying, let's talk about the fall and how humanity has been broken and corrupted by sin. But even in the Old Testament, even in the garden, God said, "I'm not abandoning my people. I'm going to find a way that they can be right with me." Because what's going to happen is the serpent, evil incarnate, who has corrupted his creation, is going to strike his heel. Oh, but the Messiah is going to crush his head. Evil will be taken care of. Even back in the garden, he said that. And then he keeps going. He probably talked about the sacrifices. All through the works of Moses, they talked about the sacrifices, and the sacrifices never removed any sin. It just covered it. Because one day the Messiah is coming, and it's going to wipe it all clean. That's what all those sacrifices were for. They never removed anything. And I can see Jesus going on further. He may talk about Isaiah, jumps into Isaiah. In Isaiah 7, it says, "Look, the virgin will conceive a child, and she will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, God with us." And then he said, let's go a little further, maybe to Isaiah 53, where it says, "Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. Yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. And the punishment that brought us peace was on him. And by his wounds we are healed." And you just see Jesus going through every one of these, and the meal that he's before his friends. That's when everything changes. Everything changes at that meal. Jesus he blessed the bread, just like he did on Maundy Thursday, the Last Supper. And he broke his bread. I'm sure they're watching him going, hey, that looks familiar. That looks familiar. He pours out the wine into a cup. Yeah, he did that too. Man, I've seen this before. That's Jesus. That's my Jesus. And right there, it's no longer a funeral march back home. It's a highway to hope. I said, that Jesus is back. That is my hope. We had hoped that he was going to be the Messiah, but no, death can't hold back Jesus. I have hope. And everything that my Jesus said is true. That he is the Messiah. And he has come to pay for my sins. You know, you feel the excitement with so much hope that has been confirmed. And they run back all the way to Jerusalem. It's getting close to nighttime. It's got to be nighttime. They're eating dinner. They run all the way back. And he tells the disciples, hope walked with us to Emmaus. Hope is here again. It's the name of our hope is Jesus. See, we open this window of hope, and is Jesus your hope? You know, there's many people that live in this world and they have no hope. They have no hope. You know, they go one of two ways usually. They go, well, I'm going to try to be a good person. And hopefully good things I do will be good enough. And we just know that it's never good enough. There's nothing we can do to make us right with God. We're broken already. We're flawed. You know, we know this. Or maybe they do the unthinkable. They put all their hope in chance, as in, you know, I'll just, whatever happens, happens. I'll find out someday. And they're like the student who just refuses to go to class. They refuse to study the textbook. They refuse to even take notes to try to figure things out. They refuse to study the right answers for the final exam, yet they hope to get a passing grade. And Jesus is saying, no, I am your hope. I am your hope. The Bible talks about Jesus as our sure hope. A sure hope. And those two words don't go together usually. Because if you're sure about it, it's not a hope. And Jesus said that this is a sure hope. I am your only hope, your sure hope. In this life and the next. Because Jesus said, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Our Jesus who came and lived a life amongst us, and was dead and was buried, and rose again on Easter morning, says, I am your hope. Do you have faith in me? The only way that you might be free of your sin. You know, years ago, before GPS, you know, I know that's hard to understand for some people. Some people are looking at their phone. What? There was some place before GPS? There would be sailors that would be on boats, even going through the Great Lakes. And whenever there was a huge storm that would come up, they knew that you got to stay away from the land. You know, there might be rocks around there, break the hull open. No, we can't have that. And then they would drive through the wherever they were going, and they're not looking for land. They're looking for the lighthouse. As long as I can see where the light is, I know where I'm supposed to be. I need to stay away from those rocks. I don't want to shipwreck here. I need to stay away from it. But if I see the light, I know where I'm supposed to be. And that's our lives. We don't focus on all the rocks in our life, the dead-end streets, the things that will shipwreck your faith. That's not what we focus on. We focus on the light of the world. And once you know where the light of the world is, you know where you're supposed to be. You know where safety is. You know where peace is. The light of the world is your only hope. It is Jesus. These people that were on the Emmaus Road, they said, we had hoped. We had hoped that he was the Messiah. And what they found out is that the light of the world, Jesus, is the Messiah. He is your only hope. And that's what Easter does for us. Jesus calls to all of us who are tossed on the oceans of life. And some of them are much more full of turmoil than others. But it still comes down to, where's the light? Is your only hope? Where's the light? Do you know him? Do you know Jesus? Don't drown in the sea of despair. Do you know Jesus, the light of the world? You don't need to know all the answers in life. That's not important. Do you know Jesus as your only hope? You just need to see Jesus clearly. Because when you can see Jesus, hope is never lost, even in your storms. So as we get ready to leave today, on an Easter morning, do you have hope? Do you have hope that your sins are forgiven through Jesus, the Messiah, who had come to make everything the way it was supposed to be? That's our Jesus. That's who we came here for this morning. That's who we leave with as well. Let me pray with you. Jesus, there is nobody here by accident this morning. You brought everyone here to find you, the light of the world, the hope for all mankind. And right now you are leading us to go deeper with you, to trust you more, to place all our hope for today and for tomorrow in you. May today be that day where we admit our sins, where we keep your forgiveness center in our lives.